Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jerrid Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist, and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is The Breakthrough Effect. All right, today on The Breakthrough Effect, I'm talking with my good friend, Matt Anderson, a coach, a consultant, a pastor, and a speaker with over 20 years of experience who's dedicated his life to answering one powerful question: why not win? But there's something even more fascinating about Matt's story. It's not so much about winning, it's about competing with our own minds and our inner beings. And he just released his first book called Being Superhuman, where he walks readers through a 3-step process to defeat the negative thoughts that whisper you're not enough, identify and harness your unique superpower, those abilities that only you possess. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation that will talk about our most authentic selves, our most authentic transformation, and becoming the person that we are all meant to be. Please welcome to the show, Matt Anderson. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Jerrid, my old friend, so glad to be with you. Thanks for having me on the Breakthrough podcast.
We go way back. I'll spare everybody the details, but we've known each other 25 years. Played on the same basketball team back in junior college. So it's fantastic that everything's kind of come full circle here now, 25 years later.
Same basketball team in college, same calculus classes. I cheated off of your paper.
I was cheating off of you.
Oh, yeah, that was a mistake on your part.
Well, let's jump in here. I want to start things off with this. And again, our messages are similar and we're cut from the same cloth, so I'm super pumped to have this conversation. When did you realize that you were not living true to yourself?
Well, I think for me, when I look back over my life, if I keep doing the same thing too long, something that starts to shift in me, and I'm not very good. I'm a very stubborn, loyal, more stubborn than loyal person where I just feel like I found what I'm supposed to do and I'm doing it. But when it comes to some of the things that I'm doing right now with the book and with speaking, I was working in a nonprofit world, I was in the pastor world, I was in the church world, and I kind of was set. And I'm not going to say comfortable because there's challenges and lots of heaviness and burdens in people's lives. But every few years I have found that I need to do something a little bit differently to challenge myself. I find if I stay the same and if I'm not doing some different things, then there's a part of you that starts to die or get stale. And so I found in my past, about every 7 years or so, I had to make a significant change. And that's been true for the last 21 or so years. And so a couple of years ago, I was kind of at that same point, and I was in my church world, and I started getting invited by people to do something outside the church. Will you come and speak to some of our people at my workplace? And I'm like, I'm not in that world, so why do you ask? Mm-hmm. But I kept getting invited to do it because people saw me in one world and just thought, I think you could maybe help my team at work. And I just realized that there's something that's true about that invitation for me. There's something that there might be a calling in there. There might be a chance to reach more people, and that if I just stayed in my comfort zone, in the lane I was more familiar with, then I would in some way miss out on the reason that I'm here and a chance to just have some fun. And so I started saying yes. I started taking some of those opportunities, and what I discovered was it doesn't really matter what sector you're in, whether it's professional sector or even domestically in a home life, family life, nonprofit, government. Like, there are some transferable human realities that if you understand them, if you can grasp them and live into them, you're going to be better off. And so what I've tried to do is say, okay, what do I know that's true about human being? What do I know about humans that helps them thrive? What have I learned or am still learning that the more I live into it, I'm better off, and I want to share that with other people?
Yeah.
then if I have an opportunity to bless somebody, to enrich somebody, to help a group, I'm gonna, if I can, say yes to be able to just transfer some realities from one world to another in my life. And I've found that when you break down some of the barriers, like this is how I am at home, this is how I'm at work, this is how I am at church, and you break down some of those barriers and you say, no, I'm me everywhere. And these are things that I can share anywhere. Your life stops feeling so compartmentalized, and you're able to be comfortable in your own skin and see your entire life as sort of a mission or an opportunity. It's been fun to say yes and color outside the line, to keep challenging myself, and because it can help more people.
Yeah. I love it. And you talked about like helping people become more of who they are. I love the title of your book, Becoming Superhuman. What is it? What does it mean to be superhuman?
Yeah. Well, notice it's 3 words and not 2. So if it was being superhuman, and there are some books out there that are called Being Superhuman, and they tend to be about how to live on sort of an elevated level, how to meditate, how to like have an edge on other kind of humans, normal humans, and be better. And this book is really the opposite. It's not about how do I be better than people, because I believe that inner critic that I talk about in the book so much, that plays right into it. The more I evaluate myself based on other people, the worse I am. Josh Bridges, who's a fitness expert, said comparison is the enemy of joy. I just went to the gym, I was telling you, and if I sit at the gym and I look at all the guys that are 20 years younger and 20 pounds heavier with muscle, I walk out feeling a little crappy. But if I can find a reason to say, look, I'm this much fitter, says my fitness watch, than I was a year ago, then it's about me being the best version of myself. And I think there's a fitness metaphor there that's helpful for life. So the book is about how do I be a superhuman in the sense of super meaning full. How do I be a full, not phony, but a full version of myself that lives into my own identity, that accepts my both strengths and my limitations, and doesn't try or pretend to be something beyond that. Because when we don't embrace those things, we start to experience both physical and emotional issues, and it affects our relationships, and it limits our joy. The book actually, the impetus for the book, as I was kind of wrestling with all these themes, I sat down with a former CEO of a company that was in the health industry, and I was just like picking his brain about leadership and about what did you learn, and maybe would you like to work together sometime down the road. And he said, this was the hardest job I've ever had. I came into this company, and 8 years in, I found that I had only made just a slight dent in the culture where people were afraid. Our job was to help humans, and yet everybody was afraid to raise their hand, afraid to share their ideas, afraid to say it was my bad, afraid to say I need help, afraid to say I don't know how to use that software, because there had been like a 20-year culture of it's not okay to be vulnerable, to need help, to take credit or blame. And he said, it was the hardest job I've ever had because we didn't know. And that just hit me.
No.
When our workplaces are full of people who feel like they're phony, our teams suck. The culture sucks. And it sucks the joy out of everyone who works there. They waste huge swaths of their lives in a corporate setting, drains them. They come home angry. They come home grumpy. They come home depleted. And then that affects their families. That affects their health. They go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you got to make a change because this is not working. Whatever's going on, you got to change. And I think all of it comes back down, or a lot of it comes back down. Are we comfortable accepting ourselves for who we are, or how we're made, saying yes and no, embracing limit, embracing our strengths, not trying to be like or better than someone else? And when we get to the point where we do what I talk about in the book, we learn how to crush that inner critic. There's a safety factor that people feel around us. They get to breathe. They have a sigh of relief because finally here's a person who I can. So it's really about being fully human, not being some kind of phony. And the journey, I need simple steps and pictures. So it's just like 3 simple steps to taking this journey. And I like you. I like short books. I like simple books. I don't read that much, because I have such a terrible attention span that I get halfway through a book and I have to put it down. So it's a book that I can get my mind around, and if I can do it, anybody can.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. I hear you talking about 2 different aspects. It's doubling down on who we are. You mentioned the book Crafting Your Cape, which I want to get to that, but it's also crushing your inner critic. I'm curious, is it more about playing offense, or is it more about playing defense? Is it more about doubling down on yourself, or is it more about like trying to quiet all the negativity sometimes going through our heads?
So I see it as a step one and a step two. If you don't learn how to deal with the voice of the inner critic, you're not going to be able to craft your cape, and which is step two. And step three is building your team or creating your team, which you can collaborate much better when you do steps 1, 2. But it is a sequence, in my view at least, because I was brought into a big bank this last year, and they wanted me to do a craft your cape session. It's like, awesome, but we have to start with the critic. And I spent more than half the session on the critic. They're like, well, why do we have to spend so much time on that? If you don't deal with the negative voices, if you don't help your team deal with some of the barriers to this, all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. So for me, Crushing Your Critic is all about this. It's all about recognizing our thoughts. Most of us are programmed silently by thoughts that go through our minds that we're not even aware of. So we have to make the unconscious conscious. I give people a 60-second or to 20-minute thought inventory exercise where you just sit and write your thoughts for 60 seconds up to 20 minutes and paying special attention to the negative one. And most people are shocked at what they write. I have no idea I thought that way. And their first impulse is to be ashamed or angry at them. The assignment is to do not judge yourself. Look with compassion at your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Just write them down, because all your job is to become aware of them. And once we do that, we kind of pick one out and say, now let's analyze this thought a little bit. In the book, I give like some tips for how to analyze and how to unwind that thought. And then once we become aware, we can take some steps to pivot and undo that thought pattern and replace it with a positive. And I find if you just skip to here, let's really work on these positive thoughts without actually giving people the tools to unwind, address, and even be aware of the negative ones, that conveyor belt is always going beneath you, and it's like trying to walk up a down escalator. It's very, very difficult. So dealing with those negative thoughts, dealing with crushing the inner critic. And then when you do that, you have this bandwidth you didn't have before to craft your cape, to work with this playful, powerful visual, something that you can actually hold in your hands, put on your door. It's like a cape-shaped visual where you can say, hey, this is who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. I want to actually volunteer over and above my job description, because if you need help in one of these areas, I can do this. I can do this for our team. I can do this for our organization. I will volunteer this. And you know what? This is what I suck at. This is what I don't do well. And I'm just going to be honest with it so that you can be honest about what you don't do well. And you know what? Some of that's going to overlap. And that's going to make us a better team.
I asked you that question because I want to hear your opinion. I think there's been studies done on this. What is more helpful? Is it trying to diminish negative thoughts or increase positive ones? And almost every single study that comes back says you have to get rid of the negative ones. You can't out positive think, a negative attitude or a negative thought or an inner critic. What is that voice? Like, what is that thing? Is it our fear, our ego? Is it the devil? Like, what is it? And how do we rise above it? We were talking before we got recording here. I don't know if that voice ever goes away, nor should it. But how do people pivot away from that? How do people rise above that? What's something practical people can do when they become aware of it? Then what do they do?
Well, the first half of your question, what is it? I think that probably depends on like your philosophy even. Like I believe that there are forces that we don't really understand. Quantum physics is all around us. And I don't necessarily think that anybody has to come from a certain persuasion to simply recognize that there's a reality of really unhelpful thoughts. And wherever they come from, they tend to impair and to somehow they drive us towards a form of ISO-based a version of self-hate. I am not good enough as I am. To do something, manage something, accomplish something better. So once you become aware of those, you have fought more than half the battle. Because again, these thoughts are most powerful, silent. When you're aware of them, what happens when you're aware of them is you take one step back to kind of impartial observer. And the power comes, realize I am not my thoughts, and so I don't have to ride them. I don't have to simply define my reality based upon who wants their reality to be defined by our worst moment. Who wants that 3 a.m. voice we hear that everything is. I'm so glad. So by stepping away, you're over halfway home. Then in the book, I really go through some really like concrete approaches that I've used with people. I've had help with, I've gone to a lot, like pastors need a lot. And so I've constantly had mentors and coaches helping me unpack this stuff. And I've gathered all that together in one place. Here's a number of questions that thought, even if it's true, is helping me? Yes, it's cold outside here and damn cold. But if I sit and think about how cold it is, I'm just going to be miserable. It's not helpful. It might be true. Another one, where does the thought come? Is there some wound that's causing this? Or where is this thought going? If I feed this thought, if I pour gas on this, feed it constant attention, let me just think about where it takes me. I'm going to end up hating my body. If I keep, that's only hurting me. So anyway, there's a whole list of things I go through and a lot of strategies that folks don't even know about. I'll tell you my favorite one. My favorite one, Jerrid, is called personify the law. And what I advise people to do, and this sounds silly, a lot of the most effective things, but what's personify the law? You take a thought, really, like for me, my most intrusive thought pattern is the panic. Everything is about you are in trouble. Fate is, this isn't going to be, do something. The panic, I go anxious. So what I do is I take that mindset and I created a persona that's like a satirical comic book character. Bob is a portly, middle-aged, balding, sweaty guy dressed like he's waiting for the 1980s to come back. And every time that thought starts to take sway, I just imagine as Bob, ugly little sweaty head around the corner, begging to come in. and I look at Bob and I'll say, Bob, I see you. I'll wink at Bob, but I don't have time for you. I want you to go to your room. I want you to take some. And by satirizing something otherwise most overwhelmed, we again put ourselves in a position of power over. And by being able to wink at it and laugh at it and talk to it, we separate ourselves from it so that now I'm not attached to Bob. Bob isn't me. And it's just a tool to manage things and to remind yourself that there's a whole lot more to life, thought pattern, and I'm going to shoot direction. So I really enjoyed putting together an index of to pull out of the toolbox and use. And some people are so frontal and logical that particular one may not make sense. So I have some real logic, bare bones too, but it's so doable. Most of the time people don't think that it's possible. I'm going to shift my thinking. My thinking is just my
I find it fascinating because I was raised and not modeled that we should take our thoughts captive, that our thoughts aren't who we are. And then we get a chance to choose. You could choose if you want to react to this one. Do you want to embody it or do you want to separate it? So I love this idea and this visual picture you're making of personifying it and separating it. I mean, I know that, obviously you've been in ministry a long time. I always go back to Romans 12:2, which is that we're transformed by the renewing of our mind. And I'm like, that's the ultimate cheat code. That is the ultimate cheat code laid out right there, thousands of years ago. Like it really is a renewing of the mind. If we want to go places, do more, become more, that's really where it starts. And that's why the first part of this conversation is all revolved around our thoughts, right?
And that verse is actually a verse I've been used to talk about exactly. Mm-hmm. It ends by saying, so that you can discern God's will. So if we want to understand, right, we want to understand, should I take this direction or that direction? How do I engage this? I want to know God's will. And the word for transform is literally the Greek word we use for describing the caterpillar butterfly. Metamorphosao is the Greek word. So it's becoming like a butterfly, letting your entire life be shifted. And that happens with that space between our ears and how to manage. Now, the good news is we don't have to, if you're a person help with that. If you're a person that simply recognizes that you don't have to do life alone, there's relationships of people that do what we're doing right now. And that's say, hey, here's how I'm doing it. Here's what I'm struggling with. It doesn't have to be you alone on the phone booth figuring this out. There are people, there are resources, and there are spiritual things, if that's that can assist this journey. It's like trying to climb Everest by yourself. Yeah. So most people just know with the encouragement, it's possible, it's hard, it's a lifelong. Mm-hmm. But the more effort we to this, it's worth our time and effort. Everything's based on reflect on and react to.
It's a great word, and I'm glad we spent some time dissecting this, and also too realizing that this is kind of the first step, because it's hard to embody a new reality and step into our superpower without this first step done. Let's talk about that next step, because I talk about superpowers a lot. I know you do. What do you tell somebody who inevitably says to you, Matt, you know what? I don't have a superpower. What do you tell them?
Well, if I'm trying to be nice, I'll just kind of ask them why and tell them why you think. But, at some point, I will say, I've been there, and that is because as I unpack it in the book, the word power, simply ability. The word super means above average. So you mean to tell me there's nothing majority of the population, think about that, leave that, then we need to go back to the drawing board. Well, why did they hire you? Because they decided to, because they thought you could do something better than, you could take any number of assessments, clinical assessment, professional assessments, and they will disagree with you that you don't have any elevated abilities. You don't have any above average capacity. And so I think we have to get over that self-hate, that inner critic saying I'm not, to be able to embrace what is good. And I always say that there's kind of an overlap between external feedback, so professional assessments, feedback we get from other people, and what I call flow mode or our flow mode, the things that we do that give us life, joy, energy, and time flies while we do them. The overlap between those two things is our superpower. And become more and more aware of that over time, go on kind of a quest and a journey to discover that. And once you do, you're going to be much more willing, comfortable saying what you're not great at. And that's equal, because if you know what you're not great at, not the things like, I just need some practice this. This is a growing area for me. No, this is not something you want to put on my plate, because I will destroy it. It's going to be awful. Give it to somebody else. When you're comfortable saying what good at, not good, and that is just like the open doorway, relationship, partnership, collaboration with differently gifted people who, again, look at us as themselves. Now I get to be myself. I get to help you in your areas of now work.
Once people start to identify that they do have something that they can do above average, that does, produce some sort of value and at an elevated state, talk about people either in the workplace, but also maybe trying to enter the free market. I know a lot of people that listen to this show, they're aspiring entrepreneurs. Maybe they feel stuck in their job. They have this, I would say, vision or calling, something that's been implanted with them. A lot of the people that I work with, they're like, it's been there for years, and I try to suppress it and it doesn't go away. And I'm like, yeah, that's something God's given you, like act on it. How do you then take people from just identifying it to now like taking some action towards it, aligned action towards maybe, having that come to fruition in some way, shape, or form? What do you tell people?
That's kind of part of that. The last step was how do you how do you start volunteering strengths? What does that look like? And sometimes it means you need to stop doing what I'm, sometimes break a trajectory of your professional life. But sometimes it starts where you are, volunteering those things, the very stuff of every day. Come to a renewed understanding that with strategic, start volunteering to go to other teams. Just be generous. Look for opportunity. If you're in a all staff meeting, we're looking for a couple people to help us think through employee engagement or employee trainings. Volunteer. I would love to help in this way. You can do that formally and do it informally, what you guys are trying to do. I'm on the board of a nonprofit, and one of my superpowers is love complex and attract. And so I help them come out in different slogans that they use. They're talking use really heavy, hard stuff. They need some positive. I'm like, love it, superpower. And I think there's almost limitless for us to do that, trying to volunteer more and say, we need to find somebody. And I think for everybody, and this might be part of your question, when you're in a workplace and I've tried and I've squeezed as much of that in, but I feel like the majority of what I do, 70 isn't it. And when you get to that point, that can be a point you get to be that gets to make choices. You will thank yourself down the road, whether that's applying for, internal pets, talking to, I am here, my hardwiring is the best. And sometimes that's starting a new business. But I think it's in the very trying to volunteer as often. And if you hit a C, for sure.
It's great advice, because some people, they feel it, they sense it, they maybe are aware of it, but they never dip their toe in. And then they usually will fight back. Well, what if it's the wrong decision? Well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, fine. Just do something. You will be guided if you just start taking some action. Just try it. Volunteer, like you just said. I think it's fantastic. Matt, I want to start landing this plane here, but I want to give you one last question. I usually end with this type of question with people, and I'm really, really curious to hear what you have to say. If you could literally go into the minds, I know you're kind of a mindset guy. We started with that. If you could go into the minds of the people listening and install one program, one truth that is true for everybody listening to this show, what would that thing be that would set them off on a new trajectory in life?
It would be this. And this is a question that I think has been very challenging and life-giving to me, having to do with the culture we live in, comparison. I don't think we realize how constantly we live where I could pick up a phone and open up on any platform, and I will probably compare myself to 100 different 5 minutes of scrolling, not even knowing it. And then when we do that, and you could be shopping and it happens, entertainment and it happens, media and it could be in public. You could be hanging around other parents and say, oh my gosh, look at that couple, look at their kids, look at their house lot, whatever. And then we start silently kind of trying to emulate, move in that direction, program. But only when we ask this question do we start to say, and here's the question, why go through life doing an average impression when there will never, ever be? You have absolutely no chance of ever meeting someone remotely like you. I don't even care if you're an identical twin. I've studied this, the genetics, interacting with the environment, and the diet, and like there's so many differences even between genes. There will never mathematically ever even close to being someone even remotely like you. We spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out how to be like the guy next office, or the gal down the hall, the girl on TV. But there is never going to be on earth another person. If that's true, then you have not just an obligation to give the world the best version of you. Because that's it. When you're gone, you're gone. I mean, I believe in an afterlife. I believe in all the good things to come. But this tiny little life, and the best gift you can give the world is the best of you. If you ever go to an Elvis convention, it's a weird thing. There's a Elvis convention in South Wales, and 40,000 people descend upon this convention every year, and their job is to pick the best Elvis. And I can't imagine what it'll be like to go there. There's bulging body suits everywhere. There's oversized sunglasses. There's way too much hair gel. There's a lot of low voices. Both men and women comprise of the best Elvis. And I read an article about that, and I thought to myself, what if Elvis came back from the dead and showed up there? What would he think? Now, would he say, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe. I love my fans. Maybe. Or what do you think? Would these people spend so much time trying to impersonate? And so I feel like there's a quest, there's an before everyone to try to be the best. And when we decide that that's my mission, we get freed up from all this what we carry around a comparison. And we simply walk around and choose own responsibility, try to live a life. So that would be the one. If someone takes anything away from, I love doing impression, I like doing impression.
Dude, that's beautifully said, my man. I appreciate you sharing that. What a great way to end the show. Let me rephrase that. It's why would you be an average? Say that again. Be average of somebody else. I'm butchering it. Say it again.
Why go through life doing an average impression of someone I'll never ever be?
Thank you for sharing that, my man. I appreciate you, dude. We're out of time here. I knew this was going to go fast. But first of all,
an encouragement to me and to so many. It's an honor to be here with you. Just thanks for doing it. It's been a real inspiration.
Oh, well, it's my honor. And just so you know, and I want people to hear this, you came to me a couple of years ago with the idea of this book, and I begged you to write it, Matt. You remember that? I was like, please. And it's interesting because you're like, I probably said the same thing to you. I said, it is your duty to bring this to people. This is a fantastic message. It's a fantastic message. I've read the book. I had the honor of writing the foreword, and it really is an incredible book. So thank you for writing it. This is a message that people need to hear. Where can people find more about you and more about the book?
They can go to craftyourcape.com to learn more. They can dig into that the webpage to kind of learn a little bit about the book, find a way to get the book, and then reach out to me. Anything I can do to cheer you on or do something to support your coming up, I'd love to connect with you.
If this conversation sparks something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jerrid Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jerridsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.